Welcome to Breaking the Boom Bust Cycle, the power of pacing in chronic pain management. My name is Amy. I'm a chronic pain coach and author, and someone that has experienced chronic pain for 20 years and is now 11 years pain-free, using the very well-researched principles that I share through workshops, blog posts, and my books. And today we're going to be focusing on the boom bust cycle. So what is it? You guys may not know that it has a name, but I know you know the cycle. It starts out where you're in a flare-up, things have been rough, you're in bed, you're resting a lot, you're not doing your normal routine. During the resting, you start to feel better, and then all of a sudden, you're starting to feel better. Things don't hurt as bad. You're like, yes, I'm having a great day. And you go to catch up on all the things that you haven't done. Your pain ends up increasing and you end up back where you need to rest. You need to take more care. You can't do as much until the cycle starts all over again. This is a cycle that we can stop. And it does have a solution, and that solution is something that I call practical pacing, and we're going to talk about that at the end and how we deal with that. But I really want to, I know a lot of people have said to me, Amy, yeah, okay, I do that all the time. It's just the way I live. It's just my life. It's just the way it has to be with pain. No, it doesn't. Life with pain doesn't have to be this way. And I am going to suggest to you that this constant boom bust that you are probably living in is also driving your pain. And we don't want to do that. So if you have followed me at all, you know that I think of pain as a whole person problem. It's not just a tissue problem, especially chronic pain, right? So if you've had pain for 9 months or more, and there's nothing, really significant on your scans, but you're really disabled by your pain, it's really more than just your tissue. And the word for that in the research world is a BPS, or a biopsychosocial perspective of pain. And it's actually really a perspective of health, and that as human organisms, everything we do is biological, psychological, and sociological. Well, what do I mean by that? Well, the biological is really obvious, right? It's inflammation, it's the pain that you're actually feeling. Maybe there's soreness, redness, arthritis, disc issues, neuropathy, like autoimmune conditions, right? You have some kind of biological diagnosis that you've probably been treating for a very long time with meds, pain management interventions, and physical therapy or physiotherapy, depending on where you're from. And I'm going to guess the reason you're hanging out with me today is because those things aren't enough. And I would agree with you. It was the same for me. I tried for 20 years to manage my low back and SI joint pain with physical therapy, and it was never enough. It was never enough because I was missing two super important parts, and that was the psychological and the sociological. The physical pain was managed as the physical parts of my pain were managed as well as they could be. But the psychological and the sociological aspects of my pain were not even addressed. I didn't even know that they were a thing. And it was when I addressed those things that my pain, in conjunction with the biological, we never throw the biological out. With chronic pain, I think a lot of people think that, but it wasn't until I started addressing the other two columns of psychological and sociological factors that my pain started to change and then eventually went away, because it completely changed the way I dealt with my pain, right? So what do I mean by the psychological aspect? Am I saying that the pain is in your head and that it's just manifesting in your body? No. I'm saying your brain is in your head, and the brain processes information that comes up and it sends out responses. And pain is a response that is sent out. So is hunger. and thirst and itching and your heart beating. So it's not like pain is the only thing that works like this. Most of our bodily functions work like this. Information is sent up to the brain makes a decision about what needs to happen, and an answer or a command, if you will, comes down through our nervous system. All right, so what are psychological aspects? I know you're dying to hear, but it's things like stress, like all stress, anxiety, worry, and then the coping mechanisms that you have. It is how you feel about your pain. It's how you think about your pain. It's the overall like togetherness or discombobulation of your healthcare team, right? So it's all the emotions and the feelings really around, and thinking in your own body about your pain. Again, pain is not, I'm not saying this is psychosomatic. I don't believe there is such a thing as psychosomatic pain. All pain is real. However, our emotions have chemicals, and chemicals have an effect on our nervous system, which is why things like stress and anxiety influence our pain. You with me? All right. The sociological factors. This is a lot more insidious, and I always tell my clients it's not so much that I expect you to change society, but understanding why we get the responses we do, how society sees illness, anything that isn't wellness, and the systems tends to help us cope better with the world around us. So things that would fit into this category would be societal expectations and support systems. I don't think I'm saying anything amazing when I say the United healthcare system is broken. United States healthcare system is broken. We know that system is broken. The disability system is broken. The work comp system is broken. As a person experiencing pain, you are in the midst of these broken systems, which cause stress, which cause chemicals, which cause feelings, which cause chemicals, which heightens your nervous system, which makes your pain more intense. You with me? A societal expectation, I would say, in the Western world is that we are only as good as how much we can do. And this is often an unconscious thought for most of us. It's just the way we grew up. It's the way that our work expects us to function. It's the way our families expect us to function. And within that, the belief that we are only as good as what we can do, or we have to be busy to be valuable. Yeah, like rest is for the weak, I'll rest when I'm dead. These kinds of messages, those are societal expectations about how human beings are supposed to behave. And within those expectations, that often drives this boom bust cycle that we're constantly in. And so unless and until we start to recognize some of those things, we end up in this hamster wheel of booming and busting and not really understanding why. So what is the impact of all of that? I have chosen to work primarily with motivated women in pain because I myself am a recovering type A personality, a recovering people pleaser, someone that is recovering from abandonment issues, right? Like, I think that these are things that plague a lot of women. And so it's not that men can't benefit from these videos. So if you're a gentleman watching, thank you for being here. I would love to hear your feedback. But I do think that there are unique challenges that we as women face in the times that we are living in, right? Especially when we're caught in the boom bust cycle. All right, so what is the impact of living like this to you, the person watching this, right? Well, the first thing is usually increased flare-ups. I mean, am I right? It feels like unpredictable spikes in pain because, we were just doing the stuff we need to do, which those flares make it very difficult to plan, makes it very difficult to do daily activities. And we often, over time, grow very afraid of doing more and more things because our pain continues to exacerbate. So in this cycle, our world shrinks. Our feeling of safety shrinks because we keep being punished for doing things with more pain. We have an increase in fatigue and exhaustion, constantly vacillating between periods of rest and overactivity. Not so great, can tend to kind of burn us out, little adrenal fatigue, energy level, quality of life, like those kind of things. It is exhausting enough living with chronic pain on the daily. It is even more exhausting to have to deal with the constant ebb and flow of chronic pain flares. Would you agree? I think both of those things, the increase in pain flares and the increase in exhaustion and fatigue, takes an enormous emotional toll on humans, and women in particular, because it is so often that as women, we are working, we are running our household, and we are taking care of our children. And so we basically have 3 full-time jobs, as well as trying to maintain a sense of self, to have some time with friends, and to have hobbies and things that interest us. And they're in a healthy person's life with no pain, there's not enough time. And when you are also managing your life with chronic pain or illness, the emotional toll is gigantic, and the boom bust cycle makes it even worse. Because don't you, I mean, I know that this is true of me, and I'm wondering if it is true of you, but I always ended up with more frustration, anxiety, depression. I felt helpless because I knew I couldn't do the thing, or I was going to flare, but I really wasn't supposed to ask for help. That's another one of those societal expectations that's really crushing us, by the way. But like, I was expected to do these things and just be normal, but I wasn't normal. I was in an inordinate amount of pain. I was in so much pain, I wanted to commit suicide for several years of my life. I didn't, because I had children, but like, I prayed that I just wouldn't wake up in the morning. That's a lot of weight, gang. And if you are sitting here nodding along, thinking to yourself, yeah, I feel that. I see you, mama. I see you. You are not alone. But the boom bust cycle adds to that emotional toll. It adds to that feeling of helplessness. It adds to that feeling of like, is my life ever going to be normal? Is it worth being here? It's a disrupted life. It disrupts your ability to work. It disrupts your ability to care for your families, to engage with your friends, to participate in your hobbies. It shrinks our life down to just managing the pain. Do you even remember what your hobbies are? How long has it been since you've been out with your friends? I'm going to guess it's been a while. It doesn't have to be this way, okay? When we shrink our lives, because pain is so unpredictable, and we're in these constant cycles of flares and rest, flares and rest, flares and rest. You and I both know it. That impacts our relationships. Our friends get further and further away. People stop asking us to do things. People feel like we're not wanting to be with them, when that's not true. It's that we don't know that we can handle all the requirements to go out to dinner and a movie with the girls, because that's an awful lot of sitting and it hurts to sit anymore. And I know if I sit that long, then I'm not going to be able to do the things I need to do tomorrow. But maybe I just get so pissed at my situation, I go ahead and do it anyway. Boom. You take the boom and then you bust. Do you ever feel stigmatized, misunderstood? Like people think we're over exaggerating, or that we don't have enough uh, pain tolerance, or that, God forbid, we should try yoga or different essential oils, right? Yeah, because they see us on good days, and then we have the bad days, and we tend to not tell people about that. And let's face it, pain isn't a broken bone that can be seen. We're not losing our hair due to cancer treatments. We're not, I don't know. There's no bandage, there's no cast. It's just always with us. And so people can be awfully judgmental about that. And at the very end of the day, I think all of that has an effect on our sense of identity and our sense of self-worth. I keep saying our worlds keep shrinking, and I know you know what I mean. But if we believe that we're only as good as what we can do, if we believe that our value comes from what we can contribute to our friends and our family and our place of work, if we believe that resting isn't something that we should do or should build into our lives, who are we? What value do we have? Do you have confidence that you still matter? You know who you are anymore? Because pain changes things. I get that. Chronic illness changes things. But do you honestly realize that you are just as important today as you were before your pain started? Do you know that your self-worth has nothing to do with how much you can accomplish in a day or how clean your house is? You know that, or have you forgotten? Psychologically, there is, so if we, I'm going way back to my psychology classes from college. All right. So I started out life as an elementary education teacher. And I remember learning about the different types of conditioning to train animals, and really that end up training us as humans. And the one that always seemed cruel was intermittent conditioning. So intermittent conditioning means that thing like a behavior is reinforced inconsistently and unpredictably, right? So sometimes you can mop the kitchen floor and your back's fine. Other times you mop the kitchen floor and your back's not fine, right? So the pain is intermittent with the different things that you do. Because I know you're like, I know you a little bit, even though we haven't met yet. And I'm gonna guess that you are like a forensic art, like blah, 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 forensic pathologist looking through the every minute of your life for the thing that set off the pain. Can't sit in that chair, can't sleep in that bed, can't ride in that car. Oh, can't bend over like that. Oh, can't do that. Can't do this. Can't do that. Can't do this, right? You are looking for consistent conditioning, things that always hurt, but you're not finding it. So we're cutting things out everywhere because the pain is inconsistent and unpredictable. The thing about this is research has shown that intermittent reinforcement of pain even though it takes longer to learn, right? So like we did it for a long time before we started cutting it out. It is much harder to stop a behavior that has been intermittently conditioned than one that has been classically conditioned, which is every time. Because if it hurts every time and there's one time it doesn't hurt, well, then maybe there's hope. But when you do something 10 times and 5 times it hurts and 5 times it doesn't, that's a lot harder to believe it's not going to hurt. So it's a lot harder to believe that it's not going to cause you to bust. And this is why behavioral psychology does matter in chronic pain. It's not because pain is learned. Pain isn't learned. Pain is a response. But a lot of the behaviors and a lot of the rituals that we have around our pain, like our boom bust cycles, are learned, and we can change them when we know differently. We can poke at the things that we believe and change them. That's what I help you do as a pain coach. One of the many, but that's what I do. So the reason that I think it is so important that we're going to handle on our boom bust cycle is because, I mean, that laundry list of things is bad enough. But the fact that it is a reinforced response that is difficult to get rid of, that's the part that really concerns me, because it's harder to break this habit because of behavioral elements of it. All right. So you're thinking to yourself, well, great, Aim. Thanks so much for telling me about the boom bust cycle. You're right. I need to break it. I have no freaking idea how to do that. Keep listening, because we're going to talk about that. I don't like telling you guys about a problem and then not offering a solution, because that's pretty shitty. Things are hard enough, right? We're in pain. It's hard enough. So it's never one thing. I don't know if you figured that out about your chronic pain yet, but it is never, ever, 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 ever a singular thing that makes things better. It's not. Because if it was, that medication would have worked and you wouldn't be in pain. That physical therapy thing would have worked and you wouldn't be in pain. That surgery would have worked and you wouldn't be in pain, right? But that hasn't worked. So we need to add in the PS to the B, that biological, psychological, sociological. We need to add in those things, which means ways to break the boom bust cycle are things like self-care, better communication, seeking support and help from your peers and professionals, asking for accommodations at work, better shared load in your household, be that between your children or your partner or the next door neighbor. I mean, I say that because I have a fantastic next door neighbor that, as I have been dealing with my long COVID, mows my front lawn so that only the backyard needs to be mowed. And if I text her and say, her name is also Amy. There are 3 Amy's within, like, I could throw rocks at their houses. It's kind of funny. But if I were to text Amy and be like, we can't get the backyard mowed this week, can you please do it? She will say yes. But she will let me do it if I can, which is fantastic. So yes, your neighbors and your friends, your church community, your synagogue community, your knitting group, whoever your people are, there's going to be people in there that can help. I know it. You just got to know who and who to ask what from, right? Because that's important, because we don't like getting turned down and we don't want to feel like a burden. And I get it. But like I said, self-care, communication, asking for help, better management, education, and practical pacing. That is the solution that I am going to share with you in the art of pacing, right? The art of pacing is all about the how. I'm going to explain the what, but the art of pacing is the how. It's the how of it all. So pacing is breaking down the things that you need to do in life so that you can space them out in a more manageable way. It is about managing the different loads in your life. And everybody focuses on the physical load, all of the things that need to be done, but they often don't take into account the emotional and the mental loads that we also have that can make the physical more challenging. So we're going to take a look at what those are for you in the art of pacing, and we're gonna figure out how we fit those into your life, right? We're going to talk about ways to implement pacing, because it would be great if we could just reorganize our lives all at once, and that'd be fantastic. But that's rarely the way that it works. I think about one of my students who was huge in boom busting. Like, this was how she had lived her life for like 15 years. Just boom bust, boom bust, boom bust from one to the next. And it used to take a long time. And the boom busting got closer and closer together. And so it felt like she was almost always in a bust. We took a look at her 3 categories of load: mental, emotional, and physical. And we detailed all the things that she needed to handle. We came up with a plan on how to handle that using some principles that I will teach in the art of pacing. And within about 6 months, her pain had been cut in half. She was using less medication. She no longer felt the need to see her physical therapist because she wasn't busting as often. She felt less broken. She felt more confident. She had a better sense of self because she didn't feel like she was constantly letting herself or other people down. And that's just like, all of those results are simply because she used practical pacing. Now, to use practical pacing, you also have to learn to give yourself rest. You have to learn to give yourself permission to say no. You have to learn to draw boundaries. Like, there's more to it than just chunking up your day by time slots. But it works. It helps you take control back of your life. You see, the healthiest of women that I know often don't prioritize themselves. Practical pacing puts you at the center so that your cup is full, so that you can take care of those you love. If you're anything like me, you're a caregiver. And one of the biggest problems was I put everybody else's needs before my own, and that kept me ill. It wasn't until I took the idea seriously that I needed to prioritize myself. They tell you on the plane, any of you that have taken a plane trip, put the oxygen mask on yourself and then put it on your kid. It's counterintuitive, right? We want to put it on our kid first. We want to make sure they're safe. If we are not well, and we can be well with pain, believe it or not, we can. I am well with long COVID, but we have to change the way that we interact with ourselves. And practical pacing is one of the tools that we use to get there. I believe it is possible for each and every one of you to have the results that my other client did. I believe you can lower your pain. I believe you can lower those boom bust cycles and have just a more consistent, more predictable life. And in that more predictable life, you're going to get hungry. You're going to get hungry for more, and you should, because chronic pain does not have to be a death sentence to the lives that we want to live. It doesn't. And it starts with the art of pacing. I hope that you will join me on this journey. If you have questions, I would love it if you would throw them in the Facebook group that I run. Just say, hey, Amy, watch the boom bust cycle, breaking the boom bust cycle. I had a question. Throw it up in the Facebook group. I will drop the link below this video, but it's chronic pain support stories and solutions. It's a great place to get support from others that know what you're going through, as well as to ask me any questions that you may have. I hope that this has been helpful to you, that you understand how detrimental the boom bust cycle is to your biological, sociological, and psychological being, who you are in this world, and why it is taking away from your ability to live the life that you want. Practical pacing is one of the keys to getting your life back. I look forward to seeing you in class.